Hello, and welcome to Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. There is something happening right now in France that has shaken Europe to its core. This story has had little coverage here in the States, what with the end of the world currently upon us in the forms of the worst hurricanes in history, an election that could end with democracy in the US dying, supervillains running for school boards, and the fact that too many people now see social media influencers as a news source. I get it. We've got a lot going on over here, but this story should not ever be overlooked. I've been doing this for almost 5 years now, and I've been a student of true crime cases for decades. Not once have I ever heard a story like this. Not one single time. There is no other story I know of that even comes close to this one, as far as the evil nature of what was done for a decade to a victim that did not even know she was being victimized. I'm going to be honest with you, as I researched and wrote this episode, I had a difficult time finding the words that I need to express just how horrific this story is. You can only say the word monster so many times. You can only say the word evil so many times. Today, we are talking about one of the most vile sexual assault stories to ever be told. This is the story of Gisèle Pélicot and her husband, Dominique the Demon. I'm your host, Stacey Lee. Let's begin. I'm going to start this story by telling you I'm going to be speaking in code today. You're going to be hearing the word grape a lot for today's story. Grape does not mean the fruit. It means the manner of assault that women experience, mainly women, with a G added onto the front of it. You can say that word here on YouTube, but you can't say it 500 times in an episode. So I'm going to be using a different word off and on. I'm also going to be using the word drag instead of the word drug sometimes, and I'll be using different variations of that word because, again, there's no way to tell this story without making some modifications. There will also be points in this story where I'm using entirely different words for what's happening, but I promise you, you will be able to understand their meaning. This is not an episode to listen to while kids are around. In fact, none of my episodes are episodes to listen to with kids around, except maybe the kooky UFO cult stories. Let me put my grandma hat on here for a second. Kids shouldn't be exposed to scary stories, but I am alarmed at some of the things I see on TikTok, like a mother making a video standing in her living room and some TV show is on the background with her kids playing on the floor, and it's a TV show that kids should not be watching. You're talking to a woman who let her kids watch Sleepy Hollow and The Others and The Sixth Sense, probably when they were too little. I know that now. Little kids get scared easily, and it's our job to protect them. You know I'm not a fan of trigger warnings. We are all responsible for our own triggers, and I am a true crime and dark story content creator. If you're easily triggered, this isn't the channel for you. Now, that said, this is the worst of the worst kind of story imaginable when it comes to SA. You're going to be hearing the term SA a lot. So if you don't want to watch that, if this is something you have a really difficult time with, that is totally fine and you are completely justified. Okay, you guys are just simply not going to believe this story. Around 1971, 19-year-old Gisèle meets 21-year-old Dominique Pélicot. They are married not long after their meeting. The couple goes on to have 3 children, Caroline, David, and Florian, who are all now adults. For many years, Dominique appeared to be a loving and devoted husband. 11 years ago, in 2013, Dominique and Gisèle decided to retire to the southern French city of Mazan, and that is when the trouble started. Gisèle fell ill, and the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with her. First, she lost her appetite, and she started losing weight very quickly. Gisèle is already a small person. She doesn't have extra weight to spare, so this was concerning. Then her hair started falling out. She reports she would be washing her hair, and clumps of hair were coming out in her hands. Both the weight loss and the hair loss were upsetting, but there was something much worse. Gisèle was having blocks of total and complete memory loss. There were certain parts of her days, very often in the week, that she had absolutely no recollection of. She didn't know what she had been doing. She didn't know where she had been. She was just lost. Gisèle and Dominique sought medical attention. In the beginning, the doctors, as doctors often will, blamed hormones. For some doctors, anytime a woman experiences anything at all, they blame hormones. And sometimes the problem is hormonal, but I'm just saying. Gisèle was in her early 60s at this point. She was well into menopause. And after having her blood tested, doctors knew her hormones were fine. Then Gisèle saw a doctor that told her she was in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's, or perhaps she had a brain tumor. Gisèle underwent further testing. There was no brain tumor, and testing showed she didn't have the typical signs of early onset Alzheimer's. Dominique, the devoted husband of over 50 years, was right there at Gisèle's side, going to doctor's appointments with her, pleading with the doctors to find out what was wrong with his wife. Their 3 children were concerned. Gisèle's 7 grandchildren were concerned. What was this medical mystery she was experiencing? And then one day, the phone rang. Gisèle is at home when she receives a phone call from the local police station. Her husband, Dominique, has been arrested. Why? Dominique was at a local grocery store when a store's security guard caught him filming up women's skirts. Yes, Dominique, this man in his 70s, was holding a small camera and sidling up to women in order to film up their skirts. And men wonder why women want space. Literally yesterday, I was getting in my car after dark and there's a whole ass parking lot. And this guy just, for whatever reason, decides he needs to walk right by me. I've learned over the years, when I feel creeped out, stop what you're doing, turn around and stare the person that's bothering you in the eye. That's exactly what I did. And the guy was kind of like, uh-oh, what's happening? Because he didn't have any nefarious intentions. I could see that in his eyes when I stared at him. But dude, why are you getting so close to me after dark in an empty parking lot? Because even good men don't think like women think because they're not prey like we are. This guy was probably just taking the easiest, quickest route to where he needed to get. He wasn't thinking about walking so close to me in an empty, dark parking lot. So guys, do better. Give us our space, especially after dark or when we are alone. There's a trend on TikTok right now where gay men are walking by women in the woods, like on a hiking trail. And the trend is how to let a woman know you're harmless. And so when the gay guys are walking by the women, they start like high kicking and singing show tunes. Or they start talking about a TV show on Bravo, like The Real Housewives. It's actually really cute. And then some women have turned the trend into how to let a guy know you're not the one to mess with when you're hiking alone. And the women are on the cell phone passing men, and the women are pretending to talk on their cell phones, and they're saying things like, no, he's way down in the well. It's like 30 feet down. They'll never find his body. Or they're saying things like, no, I weighted it down. There's no way it's floating to the surface. It's kind of sad we have to worry about these things, but it is nice to see it handled with a bit of humor, I guess. The bottom line is, there are reasons that women don't want men to get close to them, especially when they're alone, because you might be a Dominic looking up our skirts. Dominic is now in police custody. I could not find very good details as to why this is, but the cops knew they had a predator on their hands. I'm unfamiliar with the laws in France, so I don't know if a criminal offense like this automatically triggers a search of devices and hard drives, or if there was something else that made the cops want to look deeper into who Dominic was. But they do. The cops confiscate Dominic's laptop and they take several hard drives from his house as well. Okay, here's where I gotta take a deep breath. Sweet baby Jesus. Everything I am about to tell you is the truth. You are literally going to think I'm making this up. I assure you I am not. The cops begin to go through Dominic's hard drives and his computers, and they find tens of thousands of images of pornography. And there's something very strange about this type of pornography. First, there's a folder on one of the computers titled, Around My Daughter Naked. We're going to get into that part in a moment. But what the cops see that is so strange is that video after video, they're looking at what appears initially to be the same video, but it's not the same video. They find around 300 photos of this same similar scene and then thousands and thousands of videos. What is the scene? It is of a woman lying on a bed in a particular bedroom. All these videos take place in the same room. The woman is unconscious, she is naked, and she is being raped. As the police continue to watch the videos, they realize every single one of the videos is a different man being the woman. Like I say, there's 300 photos, and then they find 100 videos, then 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. The cops end up finding around 20,000 videos. Did you just hear me? 20,000 videos of different instances of rape by different men and this same woman. Who is the woman? Well, of course, she is Dominique's wife of 53 years, Gisèle. Gisèle hadn't been losing weight and having her hair fall out in chunks and losing big gaps of time in her memory because she was sick. Those things were happening to her because day after day after day, her husband was dragging her so that he could then allow random strangers, sometimes multiple a day, into their house to rape his unconscious wife. 20,000 times. The videos went back to 2011. The first video of Gisèle was dated July 23rd, 2011, and it was now 2020. I don't know why this makes it worse in my mind. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but no money changed hands. Dominique wasn't doing this for money. It was only for his own sick gratification. Now, I am not in any way saying it would be better if he was charging money, please. At least that would be a motive. At least that would make some sort of sense. The fact that he's doing it just to be sick is just so cruel. I just don't have words. I wish I had a more advanced vocabulary, but even then, I don't think there are words. The level of pure, undiluted, black evil it takes to do something like this. You guys know we talk a lot about monsters here on Dark Hearts, all kinds of monsters. Some are worse than others. The best word I can come up with is insidious. Insidious means subtle and crafty and treacherous in a way that is harmful to other people. That is the best word I can come up with, but I still don't feel like it adequately fully describes how terrible this is. When the police realize what they're looking at in these videos, of course, they have to contact Gisèle, and they ask her to come in so they can talk to her. Gisèle arrives at the police station believing that the cops are going to talk to her about this gross little camera scheme of her husband's. Oh no. The cops ask Gisèle about her husband, and she tells the police he's a great guy. She defends him. She tells the police that they have been married for 53 years and that Dominique is a wonderful father and husband. So the police pull out Dominique's laptop and they begin to show Gisèle the videos. We talk about a lot of things that I don't think we can imagine adequately. I know we cannot imagine this. Unless you have been videotaped, you cannot even begin to imagine what this feels like. And then times that by 20,000. Times that by the fact it is your husband of 53 years. At first, Gisèle tells the police that she is confused. Who is the woman on the bed? She recognizes her bedroom and then she thinks, oh, my husband has been cheating on me and videotaping it. And maybe this woman is upset. And then she looks a little closer. And she realizes that she is the woman on the bed. And suddenly, in an instant, everything makes sense. The weight loss, the hair loss, the memory loss. In one single instant, Gisèle Pélicot's entire world falls apart. After she sits in shock for a few moments, Gisèle, who, by the way, we're going to get there, is an extraordinary woman. She gathers her wits about her and she leaves the police station. She goes directly home and packs 2 suitcases. She said later on, I packed all that was left for me of 50 years of life together. She put the 2 suitcases in the car. She drove straight to an attorney's office and filed for divorce. The next thing she did was probably the hardest. She had to contact her 3 adult children and tell them what she had found out. And I cannot even imagine what those conversations were like. I don't want to imagine it. I feel so sorry for everyone involved, for Gisèle, for those kids. This is just, I can't put my head around this. Gisèle then sought medical treatment. She found out she had pretty much every STI, sexually transmitted infection, known. She had all the main ones, the most common ones, and she had some less common ones. Oh my gosh. I feel like I want to drink Lysol right now. She had all of these STIs because you see, part of the thrill for her sick, disgusting husband, Dominic, was making sure that the men did not use a condom. You're going to get sick of hearing me say this. There are no words. As Gisèle is trying to gather up the shattered pieces of her life, the police are on a crusade to find each and every one of these nasty ass, sick motherfuckers who are on the tapes, being Gisèle. They're also talking to Dominic, who begins to tell them how this all worked. Dominique would find these men on message boards online. The men would talk on the internet, and then Dominic would tell them that when they arrived at his home, his wife would be drugged and unconscious. Now, of course, some of the men are claiming that they were told this was all a game, that Gisèle was not actually dragged, but she was pretending to be, and that this was some sort of fantasy role play. The first thing the men had to do when they entered the Pélicot house was strip naked. Dominique made them leave every article of clothing on the floor in his entryway. They had to take off their jewelry. They had to shake out their hair. He didn't want any chance that an item from one of the rapists could be left behind in the bedroom. Oh, it went further than that. The men were told to arrive at the Pélicot house freshly showered, no cologne, no lotion, no tobacco scent, do not smoke a cigarette, do not smoke a cigar, nothing that could leave any sort of a trace of a scent or anything like that that might clue Gisèle in as to what was going on. Dominic had to make sure that when Gisèle woke up, there was nothing in the bedroom, not even a scent that would give her an indication. There are some more graphic details. I'm going to get there in a second. The naked men were then led to Gisèle's room where she was unconscious and naked on the bed. They would then assault her. This woman in her 60s is the dignity that was stolen from her, the autonomy, the privacy, the control. I can feel my face getting hot. Oh, this is... After the crime was committed, Dominic would wash his still unconscious wife's body. He would, how do I say this? Absorb anything left behind that was inside, clean everything up. He would redress Gisèle, and then she would wake up hours later thinking she had been sleeping safely in her bed the entire time. I say this a lot. I hope you religious people are right. I hope you're right. I hope there is the hottest place in hell for this man. Word of this atrocity quickly spread through France and then through Europe. People sat in stunned silence while reading the newspaper or hearing about this almost too crazy story to believe. But sadly, Gisèle is not Dominic's only victim. Police release information to the public informing it that Gisèle is not the only victim on video and on images that are stored in Dominic's digital devices. On top of that, police have tied Dominic to rape cases going back 30 plus years. In 1991, Dominique assaulted 23-year-old Sophie Narm. This is a case the cold case unit has been working for decades. Dominic has denied the accusation, but police are convinced that he is their guy. Dominic has also been charged with the attempted of Beatrice Zavarro in 1999. Dominic's DNA was found at that scene, and he has admitted to that crime. Both of these women were drugged during appointments set up by Dominic to look at real estate. Both these women were real estate agents. So he had this scheme dating back to the 90s where he would set up an appointment to look at a piece of real estate, a house, an apartment, bring the real estate agent a coffee or a tea, something like that, and it was drugged. As if this were not all bad enough, Dominic's own daughter, Carolyn Darian, who has written a book about this case, is also one of his victims. Dominique dragged his own daughter and then took photos of her while she lay unconscious in her bed in her underwear. He also has taken naked photos of his granddaughters in the bathtub. This is where I take photos of my littles in the tub because they're just so damn cute in the tub. It is such an innocent thing to do. I never post those photos, of course, but my littles love bath bombs and they love bubble bath and they love tub toys. And their favorite thing is when I turn all the lights off in the bathroom and then I have this little galaxy projector and it projects like the stars and the galaxy onto the ceiling. These two little girls will sit in the bathtub for hours in the dark with their galaxy projector going and tell stories to each other and play. And I'll have to sit there and keep refreshing the warm water because it gets cold because they've been in the tub forever. And to think of this thing that for me is so beautiful and for so many people like me is so beautiful, turned into something sinister. The rage that I feel right here in my throat, my brain just won't let me think all the way through it. It's like a wall of protection goes up because it's too sick. The media, as you can imagine, is all over this case. Caroline and Florian have both spoken to the press. Florian has always described his childhood as normal and says that his father was always there for the children. Florian also says his father was polite and respectful towards women. But Florian has also stated that as he grew up, he realized his father was hiding financial problems from his wife, Gisèle. Those issues led to Gisèle divorcing Dominic in 2001, but the couple never physically separated. They lived in the same house, and then they got remarried in 2007. So they've been together literally for 53 years. Florian reports that a psychiatrist says he believes when Gisèle and Dominic retired in 2013 and moved, this was when his father's defensive barriers were removed from his psyche. Being retired and not having the responsibility of holding a job over him, his desires and his sickness went wild. There's a thin, very, very, very thin thread holding some people together, and it is terrifying. Dominic has been evaluated by psychiatrists. These doctors have diagnosed him with a paraphilic deviation and state he has a penchant for sexual acts with non-consensual people, and that includes voyeurism and somnophilia, which means a desire to have sex with people who are not conscious. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care. If you have all of those things, you know what you do? You go get help. You go get help. You talk to somebody. As the family spoke to the media, Gisèle and her kids, the courts were preparing for trial. This took several years, but the trial did start about a month ago. In early September 2024, the prosecution was ready to proceed. This trial is taking place in Avignon. Dominic was able to put the trial off for a few weeks because he had a kidney infection, but even without him, the trial began with experts. First, the court heard from psychiatric experts, and these experts told the courtroom that Dominic has a very carefully cultivated persona. One of the female doctors said that Dominic has an irascible character. I had to look that word up. It means easily angered. Irascible, I hope I'm saying it right. I'd never heard that word before. And that because Dominic has such a bad temper, those close to him lived in an atmosphere of fears and lies and secrets. So they were scared of him, but they were more scared of angering him than they were of him. This same psychiatrist went on to say, Mr. Pélicot's sexuality reflects his personality. It is ordinary in public, but within the relationship, he is obsessive, as it matters such as partner swapping, which his wife was opposed to, and which he compensated for by using pornographic forums. He is a man with two faces. He presents himself as stable, a respected and appreciated family man, but at the same time, he is dissimulative, with a propensity for transgression in his sexuality. Dissimulative, again, I did not know what that meant. It means to conceal your intent to deceive by changing appearances. I looked it up. Before we talk further about the accused, I want to let you know that the Commonwealth told Gisèle that all of this would be completely private if she wanted. No one had to know her identity. The court would go to the ends of the earth to protect her. And you know what Gisèle said to that? Hell no. That's what Gisèle said. Gisèle, who is such a badass, said, I have not done anything wrong, and I will not be made to feel ashamed for what has been done to me. Go on, Gisèle. I love this. I absolutely love this. During the trial, it came out that police found out Dominic had been spending time on a website called coco.fr. That website has now been shut down. The site is where Dominic was meeting a lot of these men. Oh, these men. Let's talk about them for a moment. There are currently 50 men on trial for raping Gisèle. 50. Not all of the men on the videotapes have been identified. The court, the actual courthouse, had to construct a second defendant's box in order to have all of the defendants stand and take their oaths. The offenders range in age from 26 to 74. What are their occupations? Plumbers, nurses, truck drivers, journalists, IT consultants. You have got the whole spectrum. Many of these men firmly maintain that they were told by Dominic that this was all a game, that Gisèle was in on it, and that she was pretending to be asleep during the assaults, but that really it was a sexual fantasy role-play game. Bullshit. Some of the men have sworn up and down to police that they were lured to the Pélicot house by being offered a threesome. And when they showed up, it was instead just them and Gisèle unconscious in the house. But they went through with it anyway. Because, pieces of shit are going to do pieces of shit things. Gisèle is not buying any of this for a second. She told the court, these men knew exactly what they were doing and what shape I was in. She said she'd even recognized one of the men in the videos because he'd been at her house before talking about cycling with her husband. And she had seen this guy in her house, and then she sees him on another day at the bakery. From time to time, they would stop and chat while they got coffee and pastry. And all the while, this guy is coming to her house and raping her while she is unconscious. I've been betrayed before in my life, and I've been very, 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 very hurt by people close to me. I mean, really, really hurt. I can't find words for this. There's some sort of like a mental block where I just can't imagine this type of betrayal. Now, the poor kids, they're adults, but they are forced to have very difficult conversations with their own children, Gisèle and Dominic's 7 grandchildren. Their parents are worried. Did their grandfather do anything to them? One of the mothers of the grandchildren said that she once heard Dominic asking if her child wanted to play doctor, and she thought nothing of it at the time. And now she wonders, did I miss something? These poor parents are living with this guilt that something might have happened to their babies. We talk about this all the time. The crime itself is the stone being thrown into the pond. But the crime and the stone, the metaphorical stone, creates a ripple effect that goes on and on and on and touches so many people in addition to the actual victim. Now, this trial is still ongoing. It is expected to go until December, so I'm going to have to bring you an update then. Dominique Pélicot has already taken the stand. He addressed the court and admitted his guilt. He said he has a sex addiction that was too strong for him to give up his scheme, but he has also expressed remorse for what he has done to Gisèle. He told the court, she didn't deserve this. I regret what I did and ask for forgiveness even if it's unforgivable. It is, Dom. It is most definitely unforgivable, you disgusting pervertito. Of course, Dominic has gone on to say that he was sexually assaulted at age 9 and he was forced to watch a grape at age 14. Horrible things that happened to him, and that is horrible if it happened to him. But you know what? Things like that happen to a lot of people, and they don't turn into adults that do things like this. Dominic has admitted what he did to his wife, but he will not admit to drugging or graping his daughter or to inappropriately touching his grandchildren. Gisèle spoke after court one day saying, "It is difficult for me to hear these things. For 50 years, I lived with a man whom I wouldn't have imagined for a single second could do these things. I had total confidence in this man." I don't know that any story will ever, I don't want to say top this one. This is insane on a different level. For now, you are up to speed. This is where things are at currently. France doesn't allow broadcasting of trials, so I can't show you any clips or video. I've been showing you clips from the news, and I just want to say again, Gisèle is such a badass. She shows up every day. She is not hiding her face. She is not afraid. She is just a queen. She has been through something most of us cannot even imagine, and she's just showing up every day like the boss she is, watching this trial take place. And we are watching her, hopefully learning from her. And I am confident in saying we are all cheering her on and hoping she can heal from this to the best of her ability. I will bring you an update when we have more information as the trial progresses. Whew, that was a rough one today. Thank you so much for joining me on Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. Please hit the like button if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. It helps a lot with this algorithm that just, I can't seem to break through. I'm on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and I also have 2 podcasts. This one's called Dining with Death. It's just the audio taken from old videos posted here on YouTube years ago. But this podcast is brand new, re-recorded, pristine condition, and I post new episodes every Monday and every Wednesday. Both of the podcasts are on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. You can always join my Patreon. Some of you very generously give a few dollars a month to help me keep the episodes coming, because Lord knows I ain't making any money on these platforms. And our community is involved in a perpetual fundraiser. You can watch this video right here on my channel. It's just a few minutes long, and it will tell you everything we are doing to raise money to donate to police departments that have cold case DNA in storage that's never been tested. Wouldn't it be amazing to possibly help solve a cold crime? There's lots of ways to donate, and you do not have to be a patron in order to donate to the fundraiser. I sure appreciate each and every one of you. Spooky season is upon us. I love this time of year, and I hope you're enjoying it. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. Bye.